Hello, everybody, and welcome to Vicky, Pattison, The Secret to. This week, I am joined by star of maths, Liverpool legend, and let's face it, one half of my favourite couple this series. It's Adrian, everybody.
Oh,
Woo!
nice to meet you.
I know, it's so fucking weird because what I should be saying is like, oh, nice to meet you. How are you? But instead, I'm just like, did you shag Thomas? Like, I feel like no, but I feel like I know you so well. Like, you must be getting this all the time,
Yeah, it's
surely.
funny, isn't it? Like this girl came up to me last night and she said, "Oh, Adrian," but the way she spoke to me, it was like I actually knew her. So I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Do I know you?" And she was like, "No, but I know you." I was like, "Oh, right, okay, it's the telly thing." Okay, but like sometimes people's reactions, I'm like, "Oh, I don't." I think I've forgotten who they are. I'm like, what's the name? What's the name? I haven't got a clue. Never met them.
But that's what's so lovely about how you and Thomas came across in this series. And like, I always consider it to be like such a huge compliment whenever somebody comes up to me and they're like, "You're all right, Vicky, how's your mom?" And I do the same. I go, have I met this person somewhere before? Like, did I used to work with
Yeah,
them? Like, are they a friend of me mom's? And actually, they're not. They just follow you on
yeah.
Insta, or in your case, have watched you on like maths, and you've done such a lovely job
Oh.
of putting yourself across as an authentic version of you and a nice person that they think they know you. And I love it. I think it's
Oh,
a real compliment.
it's so lovely, and everyone's so nice. Like I'm
Mm.
like, thank goodness, because there's a lot of people that are coming up to me, and if they didn't like me, then that might not be pleasant. So actually, everyone's so nice. I don't know how the rest of the cast are getting on, but everyone's lovely to me.
No, honestly, I don't know. Over the years, I have had my fair share. Like, obviously, in later years, it's been predominantly really sunny and lovely. But God, yeah, back in the day, I'll always remember, mate. And like, this won't happen to you. But I remember getting a cup of piss thrown at me at a fucking PA.
Oh my god, that's terrible.
It was awful. It didn't hit us. Like, luckily, I remained urine free.
Okay, great.
But yeah, I just remember this like cup going sailing past my head, and then the DJ behind being like, "That was fucking piss," and I was like, "Oh my god!" So no, I often think. I mean, yes, back in the day, I was doing a lot of nightclub appearances. People have had a drink, their judgment's impaired. You know, they
Yeah.
wouldn't I wouldn't be walking down Northumberland Street and get lashed with a cup of piss. I think that's a bit much. But I often think it's how you present yourself, based like how the public react to you. And you've done yourself a real and I hope I'm not being patronizing when I say this, but like your whole community, I feel
Oh,
like you've done them a real service, mate.
that's the most important thing. I'm terrible. I mean, as you saw on the show, I'm a crier. So
I'm a crier too.
I'm a
I'm such a
crier.
crier.
Like instantly, I'm like, I can't. Like when I'm doing like the little Instagram stories, sometimes anything to do with that, I have to do them about 6 times. I'm like, I can't cry. Stop crying. Like, but I can't. It makes me so emotional. Like when someone's like, you, I've. It's weird because people are like, you've inspired me to feel this way. You've inspired me to feel that way. And I've been through those battles when I was younger, and as much as it's so much better now for queer people, it's still not. It's not perfect, is it?
No.
I had some girl message me and said, um, what if I'm at threat from my family? And I'm like, you, I, and then I feel responsible, and I'm like, I can't advise you.
No.
I want to advise you, but I don't know how to advise you. Like, you need someone professional. So I found her like this professional line that she could call, and I was like, maybe you should call these guys. But I'm so sorry, I'm not comfortable to be
Yeah.
able to help you with this situation. It's too. Imagine if I
It's
said
too
the wrong
deep.
thing.
No, I know. And like, oh, I think instantly, just being on TV and feeling like you're representing like any group of people, I feel like you already feel like you have the weight of the world on your
It's
shoulders.
yeah,
And
it's responsible.
yeah, so much so. I'm always really shocked when I hear things like that because I'm I've always considered myself an ally. I hope that's like even before being an ally was a thing. Like
Yeah,
I had loads of gay friends. I absolutely loved the community. But yeah, I think I naively assume it's really great for you to just be whatever way you want to be these days. But quite clearly, based on that message and things I've heard, so there is still struggles going on.
there is. And I was surprised though, I'll say. I did expect to get some sort of if it was on Twitter or something to do with the fact that we were gay. and I never saw anything. I mean, I might have missed some, but I never saw anything. It was always, you know, this happened or that happened or this happened. It was never actually anything to do with the fact that we were gay. It was just
Yeah.
so, and I love that. You know, I like to go by my life just going, oh, who are you? I'm Adrian. I'm not the gay one. I don't want to be that. You know, it's just a part of me, and that's how I live my life. I just go along a man who happens to be gay. That's it.
Yeah. You don't, and then I've completely got that vibe from you. I never felt like your sexuality defined you at all. Um, but it is really interesting to actually, when I was watching the series, and I'm so far behind and very angry about it because I've read all the spoilers as well. But yeah, I've working away for 2 weeks and it just threw everything into disarray. But when I watched you and Thomas, you know, I never thought of you as a gay couple. I just thought of you as a couple. I saw love, and that's why it's so important for shows like Married at First Sight and, you know, the more to come. They actually do have this type of representation, right?
Yeah.
To encourage it to be a norm in our homes, even those homes that don't have LGBTQ people
And
in
I
them.
think Married at First Sight did a really good job of it, actually. Even with us on like set, you know, within the production, no one ever made us feel like the gay couples. It was no different. You were a part of the 10 couples that were there, and that was it. And it was never discussed. Nothing was ever discussed. It was always just that was it. There was sometimes when we had like a boy or a girl day split, like the husbands or the wives, they just say, you know, do you want to go with the husbands? I'd be like, absolutely, I want to go with the husbands. I'm not going with them. Frightening. Frightening. You can send Tom in there.
Tom fucking loved it as well. You could clearly see he just lapped it up. Even though I felt like you were very much an anchor for Tom, you provided him a safe space to really be himself and all the rest of it. And I definitely thought you were the calmer of the couple. One of my questions was like, oh, how did you decide which way to go? Did you just want to be like, wherever there's less drama, I'm going there?
I wanted to be wherever Zoe was.
I love you so much.
That's it. I just
Oh,
want to go with Zoe. I don't care where she is. Wherever she is, I will follow that woman to the end of this earth.
I'm sorry, but I feel like that should be your motto for life. I just want to be where Zoe is.
That's it. She's coming tonight. I can't wait. I'm so excited. She's coming to see me. I can't wait. Honestly.
She is like, honestly, as I said, I'm far behind, annoyingly, and I've still got so many to binge. But yeah, she's becoming a real
Oh,
highlight for
but
me.
so she like works up as the series goes on. I think both of us did. Like,
Yeah.
especially me. Like, they're like Adrian doesn't speak for the first 3 episodes, and then by the end, who's the one causing the murder at the final dinner party? Me.
This dickhead,
It was
that's it.
me. But I'd had enough by that final dinner party. I was like, you know what? Here we go. You're having it. And he got
I I honestly think though, like there's only so much any one person can take, you know, and you had been incredibly measured throughout the series. And I also think you'd managed to temper Thomas in a lot of ways, you know. And I mean that's you're only one man. That's quite a difficult job. So yeah, I think you deserved your moment, and the series was all the better for it at the end. I can't wait to watch that bit. The clips I've seen have been
oh
fantastic.
no, it was a moment. And it was I am watching it sort of objectively and I'm going, this is very good television. Like, it was really like all of the way that they had everything was pinned into place perfectly. And actually it wasn't edited. That bit runs through. But
Yeah.
it was heavy in that room that day. Heavy.
It's mad, isn't it? Because often, like, I think there is a lot of duty of care in these reality
Mm,
TV shows these days, which quite rightly so. I think there needs to be a lot. You know, we've had tragedies in this
yeah.
space over the last couple of years, so I think it's important that people's like mental health and well-being and everything is being taken into consideration. But it's a very fine line to walk, isn't it? Like you want people to be safe and you want them to be sort of protected when the show comes out,
Yeah.
but you've also, I think, I want people to be fairly represented as well.
Yeah.
Like I want to see what people are actually like, and I do want to be entertained. That's why I'm watching shows like
Of
Maps.
course.
Yeah, and I think you guys like I did a show this week and Charlene was on as like the guest
Okay.
therapist. And I actually gave her this compliment as well. I was like, you've filled a space in British TV that I absolutely think needed to be filled.
Yeah.
Oh, I
That's
just
great.
think this series of Maths has been fantastic. We're proud to be a part of it.
I'm so proud of it. And do you know what? Like, some people will probably not agree with this, so it might be slightly controversial, but there is some heavy subjects that are dealt with in this. And I find it a little tricky when people are like, you shouldn't really be dealing with those subjects. And I'm like, but it is reality television and it is
Mhm.
reality. And you sort of, it gets people shout at it that it's fake and it's edited. But then when the harsh, real bits are there, you think it's wrong. But someone in this country is suffering whatever problem is being dealt with. And so at least maybe they can see it. And, there were so many people who's just messaged me alone saying, I'm going through this and I've, been able to think about you see how you've come across with the way you've presented yourself, and that's made you feel better. So, whether it's an issue with Gemma or with April or, anyone, there's representation there. And, I'm proud that the show wasn't scared to go to those scarier places.
But then I think that's really part of like a Channel 4 and an A4 and
Yeah.
everything. Like that's it's under that umbrella, isn't it? They're not afraid to push boundaries
Yeah.
and have these quite difficult conversations. And I think all the more credit to them because it's made something very special.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's less glossy.
yeah. But then it's still very glossy. Like you guys looked great. Those dinner party scenes, like I loved them. I thought they were so sassy.
Oh yeah, they were, and they look lovely as well. No, it was great. It was so stressful trying to get your outfit ready. They'd be like, right, we've got dinner tomorrow, and then when we did the retreat one, they were
Uh-huh.
like, right, so the outfit that you're wearing, that's not going to work, because they didn't tell us we were going on the retreat, and they're like, you're going away tomorrow, and that won't work. And I'm like, well, where am I getting an outfit from then? I don't have one. I can't pull out the net, and you won't let me out the house, so I don't know what I'm going to do. So that was
Oh my
tough.
god. You had some pretty fire fashion moments though, Adrian.
Thank
Like
you.
you definitely pulled it out the bag. Have you always was there a stylist on set? Was there someone there to have you? Or was this all you, babe?
Oh no, you don't get any help. You've just got to sit panicking, trying to get your order in on time. Like, no,
Like
you
on
don't.
Astos, like
Yeah, 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 yeah,
ah!
yeah. Please, please, please. And then you're like, well, what if 1 week it came and it didn't fit? And I'm like, what am I gonna do? And Thomas would always just sat there like, you just stress so much. I'm like, I don't care. I can't go. Like, there was moments when I was the stressy one, and Thomas would just be like, chill. He just wouldn't care. He'd be ready in about 3 minutes. And I'd be like, what's going on? I don't have time. I would never be ready, ever. Ever. And they'd be like, your car's here. I'd be like, is it?
Is it? Yeah. Well, it can fucking
Yes,
wait.
I'm sorry. I am stressed. And they're like, it's not a big deal. I'm like, oh, you go on telly. You go on telly then. What do you mean it's not a big deal?
I think over the years, I've definitely relaxed a bit more, you know. Like yesterday I did a show and I forgot my shoes.
Great.
So I had to do the full thing barefoot. And like, 10 years ago, the idea of not having the right shoes or not being
Yeah,
barefoot, like it would have sent my head into a spin, which like, because you're new to it, it's exciting. You
yeah,
want to present yourself in the best way
exactly.
possible. But yeah, let us tell you, Adrian, if you're 10 years in and still doing this, you'll be doing it barefoot and not give a fuck, mate.
Oh yeah, I mean, you get more relaxed as you go about everything, though, don't you? At first I was like really worried about how I was on camera and must, try and present perfectly. And then by the end, I'm like, oh, screw it, I don't care.
Yeah, but then that so came across, and it was so lovely to see you relax into yourself and proper let your genuine nature. Because I know there's elements of you that are slightly more reserved and
Yeah.
measured, and I love that. Actually, I definitely I feel like I would love to have more of those qualities myself. I always work like to try and be less reactive, so I loved it when you were like that. But then I definitely, when you started to relax and give it a bit, I thought,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
I fucking love this side
You-
as
You've
well.
got to. The thing is, though, like everyone is like, "How are you, the calmest of all the people in all the land?" And
Well, like all your mates or
like,
just everybody.
no, no, it'd be from people from like who've come and commented from the TV show, and I'm like, "Well, I'm not. I'm raging. But I'm just choosing to not say it. Like, but I've been like the firecracker of my friend group for years. It's taken me years to have to sort of work on. You don't
Tempered.
always have to say what you're thinking, Adrian. Like, it used to be a constant stream, and now I just go, actually. and it's one of the biggest things I've learned from this is, do you know when you're there and you're sat there and you're just wanting to go for it? And then I've now learned to go, right, do I need to say this right now? No, if I want to say it, I'll say it tomorrow. And then the next day, I literally wake up and go, I'm so glad I never did that. I'm so glad I didn't, because once you're in it, and the thing with my temper, once it's gone and I'm up
Mm.
here, getting me to simmer down is not. I essentially have to leave and go to bed. Like, I'm gone. There's no coming back from it. I've seen red and I'm out. So
No, I totally get that. And I do think it's part of getting slightly older and more mature and just, not having the energy for it really. But when I was younger, I thought every single action deserved and needed a reaction.
yes,
And I was constantly arguing or constantly shouting or constantly just like stewing
yeah,
silently. And it was when I sort of got to my 30s, I think it took us that age, like to sort of think, life's too short to just be walking around like this coiled spring, Vicky. You need to
yeah.
relax.
And I think also another thing that I've taken away from the show is to take responsibility of myself and my actions, as opposed to, just like shouting, well, they did this, so I'm going to do this. No, but it was still you. Yes, they did do it and they were wrong, but you chose to respond to it. So just to be a bit more like responsible for my behavior, like, it just because I would just go, well, I did that because he said that and it was there. And so that's
And
why
he
I
fucking
think it's gonna,
started
it was
it.
him, it was there. Like, but actually, they did do that and they were wrong, but I responded. And
Yeah.
that was my responsibility. And I think it's taken me years. I had therapy years ago after I'd had a breakup. And the therapist was like, right, okay, so that one's on you. And I'm like, what? No, no, he did this and this and this and this, how's it on me? And he said, but you allowed it. And I didn't allow it. And he's like, well, you did, because he did
Did.
it once and then he did it again. So the second time you've allowed it, it's on you
Yeah.
now, because you've chose to stay for that. You've chose to accept it. So it's that's on you. And it took me a while. I'm
That would
I'm
have
gonna kill
been
you, to the therapist. I'm gonna kill you. This is your fault.
that would have been such a bitter pill to swallow, Adrian.
Oh,
Like, I would have hated it. Like, now I really love receiving. I mean, I'm never right. That's probably a step too far. Nobody loves receiving constructive criticism, but I'm absolutely more open minded these days,
yeah,
and I can be like, yeah, potentially that was a bit hot headed, or maybe I'm not thinking about how the other. I can receive that information now, but yeah, back sort of in the day, I definitely didn't have a very good. I didn't have like I wasn't as receptive, shall we say, to things like that. But it sounds as though you really learned a lot from this
I
series.
did. And looking back at the way you're saying you used to be so hot-headed and fiery, I was the same. I can look back at that though and go, I'm much happier now. I'm much
You
calmer.
are made so much happier, right?
So much happier that I'm not angry. I think I used to be angry with a lot of things in the world. I'd be angry about being gay. I'd be angry about this. I'd be angry about that. I was angry. And now I've gone, well, actually, I'm having a nice day. Don't worry about it. If he's over there being a dickhead, then so be it.
Yeah,
Whatever.
that's him.
That's on
That's
him.
him. Yeah. And I'm gonna say this, and I hope I'm not out of line. Like,
No.
I think my anger was misguided when I was younger. I was mad about some big things, and because I didn't want to I didn't want to address them. I probably because I didn't have the tools actually
Yeah.
to address them and sort of work out what was wrong and all the rest of it. It ended up manifesting itself that I was just angry at everything.
Yeah.
And it's not really the case. Like when I got older and sort of was able to sit with my own thoughts a bit more and actually sit in myself and just feel my feels, I worked out the things that I was feeling angry about, and then I got therapy for
Yeah.
them. And sort of all the rest of the stuff didn't really bother me as much after
Yeah.
that. So I think when you address the big things,
Yeah.
like for you probably coming to terms with your sexuality potentially.
Yeah, yeah, that took me a long time. There was a time when I really sort of wanted to suppress that. And there's been
Mhm.
times when I really wanted to push it. And I could never quite figure it out. But I guess, when you come out at the age of like 18 or whenever, you're then starting to get to know yourself from there, because you've been hiding so much.
Yeah.
And so you're starting to get to know yourself, where a 5-year-old is starting to develop, they start to develop relationship skills. At the age of 5, she's got a boyfriend in school,
Yeah.
but little things like that, they make a difference to how you develop throughout the rest of your life. So when you start all of those things 10 years later than everyone else, you've got a bit of catching up to do, and it feels really confusing. And then,
And
you know,
unfair as well.
I got really upset watching any like gay media. I'd be like, well, everyone dies, everyone this. It's not nice. I don't like it. Nothing's nice. And I just felt really sad, and I felt really upset about being gay. I didn't want to be gay. I just wanted to go and if I wasn't gay, I'd have been married with kids at 25, 100%. That's just me. I'd have already done that. But I've taken the years to see what's great about my life, and I'm not gay. I'm Adrian, and that's that.
Yeah. Oh, Adrian, oh, what a lovely point to end part one at. I feel like I'm just chatting to an old friend. Hello everybody and welcome back to part 2 of Vicky, Pattison, The Secret 2. This week I am joined by the gorgeous Adrian from this series of maths. How are you, Petal?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm trying to keep my head as sane as possible. Like, I'm trying to put things in place for that. Like, make sure you get your sleep. Make sure you don't like go too heavy into this. Do normal things as well. Like,
No.
because at the moment you're trying to push it, because it's the minute to do that, isn't it? But at the same time, like my eyes are spinning, and I'm like, oh gosh, I'm very tired. I need to get some sleep.
You absolutely need to strike the balance right. And
Yeah.
speaking from someone who's like fucking a little bit like longer in the tooth industry wise, you just need to be able to like defos make hay while the sun shines, because it's so exciting and you're so
Yeah.
great for this industry. You should definitely do that. But also making sure you've got the best people around you, you're having some normality, you're staying grounded, because the reason people love you is because you were such a gorgeous light and wonderful person, and you're just Adrian yourself. And if you get too wrapped up in it all, you'll end up being a dickhead really fast.
Oh no, no, I'm all right. I'm all right. It's not necessarily. We had an event the other day, and it's not as necessarily as fun as it looks, because there's just an awful lot of people who you don't know who are talking to you a lot, and then I've taken some friends, and my friends are just sat there, and I'm like, oh god, this is a lot. This is a lot.
And then you feel terrible about your friends who don't look like they're having a good time,
I
because you try to
know.
merge these two worlds and you thought it would be exciting, but it's ended up just being really weird.
I
Honestly,
know.
Adrian, welcome to the first 10 years of my
Yeah,
life.
it's hard, isn't it? Because it's nice. I want to chat to these lovely people. It's nice. But at the same time, my friends are sat there and I can't cope. And my agent was over there and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing.
And then I just end up racked with anxiety and sweating behind the knees and
I
wanting to
know.
go home.
I know. I'm
Watch
like, actually, I'd really just rather be sat at home watching Strictly. I'm stressed out.
No, honestly, but pick and choose like the best bits. Like
Yeah.
there'll be some amazing things that comes your way. Like film premieres are always lovely. Like awards are quite nice, but I stopped with the going to the opening of an envelopes pretty fast, because actually it's just not who I am. Like I like sitting on the sofa with Erkan much more.
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm like the same. Like, would I rather be sat in the Oscars or would I rather be sat in the pub?
Oh, it's a tough one.
I'd probably rather be sat in the pub with me mates.
I think you'd have a lot more fun.
Like,
Like the Oscars just looks like
it's
really.
lovely. These things are all lovely, but at the end of the day, you know,
Yeah, no, honestly, mate, fucking sitting in the pub with your mates and a pack of pork scratchings for the win every time.
every time, just get me a pint, I am sound. Like, happy as a lamb.
Just found out today, actually, that it's not the first time that you'd applied to be on Married at First Sight. So come on, talk us through your thought process, Adrian. Are you a fan of the show? Are you just really someone who really wanted to be married and in love? What was it?
So it is the first and only time I applied, but it
Oh,
wasn't this year. It was last year that I applied for the first year. I applied for
okay.
that one, and my friend who was on the show, Kate, she had said, "This is perfect for you. You are so perfect for this," because it's all I've ever really wanted, and I've never had any luck. I've never had luck with men. I just haven't. So
As they're all a bunch of bastards, Adrian.
aren't they awful? Like, I'm like, do you know what? Leave it. It's hard work. I'm fine by myself. But she said, you're perfect for this. And also it was lockdown, so whose head was in the great spot at that point. I'm sat here talking to me plants, having a chat. Like, no, no, I'm not in a great space. So I did my little video, sent it off, and then as I was watching the first series, I got a new job and I had to switch my email server. And then suddenly my junk box came up and they got back to me for that series, but I didn't see the email. So then they contacted me, one of the casting directors contacted me. I was sat in work and they sent me a message on WhatsApp and they were like, we'd really like to speak to you for the show. But I was dating someone at the time. I'd been about 5, 6 dates in. So not very long, but I liked him. So I was like,
Yeah.
no. And then I didn't like him because he was a dick. He then made some real dick moves, and I was like, you know what? Got other options.
Yeah. Fuck you. I'm
Yeah,
going to get married on the telly.
yeah, screw you. I've got a husband waiting. So I did it. That's exactly how it happened.
Get yourself a hat, you knobhead. I'll see you at the wedding.
Bye. And I saw last night, I was at this like cinema event, and this girl come up to me and she was like, oh, you used to date my friends. And I was like, yes. Bye.
I don't need to know anything else about you other than your friends with that wazzock.
Yeah, not for me. So that's how I ended up getting married. And it was so quick. It was like about 3.5 weeks before the wedding day. Literally,
Really?
boom, turned it around.
You know what, though? Having said that, I don't know why I act shocked because everything in TV always startles me. Like, I always think I must have been cast for this really late because I've only had a couple of weeks' notice. And then I speak to everybody else and stuff, and they're like, oh, no, we only had a couple of weeks as
Yeah.
well. Like, I honestly don't think I could work in TV. I think the nerves and pressure I would get to us are doing everything last minute, to be honest.
But when you're in there, like you don't, it's 10 solid weeks of not having a clue about anything that's happening. Like you just get in a car, you didn't know where you were going. The taxi driver would be like, "Where are you guys going to?" I don't know. I just sat in it. They told me to get in the car, so I got in. Like that's it.
It's insane, isn't it? That was exactly how my life was in Geordie Shore, just like going sort of where you're told and doing what you're told to do. And it actually led me, I was really frustrated with it. I didn't enjoy the process at all. How did you cope? Were you able to relax? Did you?
Eventually you relax, but it very quickly. I did the summer before COVID hit. I went and did my like first travel experience. I went to Thailand and Vietnam for about 8 weeks. Have you been to Vietnam?
No, but I haven't.
You've got to go to Vietnam. It's phenomenal. But I did that. But while you're there, like you're going through, like I was traveling around, but people would just come up to you and be like, all right, there's a sticker, and they'd stick a little blue spot on you, and they'd be like, right, so you need to get this one, and you never had any idea. There'd be like 18 buttons, and they'd be like, get on that. Like you didn't know anything that was going on, and it was just a sticker system with a color that you had no clue. And it reminded me of that. Like you've just essentially got to relinquish responsibility and just trust that you're going to get to where you're going. And
Trust the process.
I always got there. I got across those countries, no problem. So I guess I gave the same trust to the TV show. Scary.
No, but then you are so right to just relax and trust in the process because I suppose I know you and Thomas haven't ended up like a romantic couple and you're not husbands and all the rest of it, but I actually feel like your relationship was my highlight of the series, and I hope you got out of it something beautiful because for an audience, Jesus me, it was lovely to watch.
It was such a great journey, wasn't it? We wanted to kill each other. We couldn't stand each other. Like nothing was making sense to either of us. And we took the time and put the effort in to we everything those experts said, we did it. We loved a task. We get so excited when we get a task to do. We loved it. It was brilliant, and they genuinely helped us understand and see each other differently. And so that was great. It was a really lovely thing that happened.
Oh, but like it didn't start off so lovely, did it? Because
No.
I mean, talk me through how you're feeling on the day of your wedding. Like marrying a stranger, just sort of no clue what you're going to get, and then you see Thomas. Go on, tell us what
I
you think.
knew I could see exactly what Thomas was in 2.5 seconds. Exactly what he is. I can see you a mile off. A mile off. The second I turn around, I'm like, I am in for a ride. And then in his vows, he's like, I'm a lot of work. I'm like, yes, I can see that. This is a big job for me.
But then, and honestly, I do think, and I love Thomas. I adore him. He does exactly what he says on the tin. You know, you stand with him. I do think you helped him grow a lot, Adrian.
That became, an important part of it for me as well. Became so invested in each other, and he would help me at times as well. Any of my own personal insecurities, he'd be like, ignore that, you're beautiful. Ignore
Oh,
that, you're beautiful. Shut up, you're beautiful. All the time. Like if I was
I'm
like,
gonna
you're very
cry.
nice, like I don't look very nice today, he'd be like, is there something wrong with you? Are you stupid? Like he'd be like, shut your mouth. Don't you like if I spoke badly about myself, he would be like, don't you speak about yourself like that. Like all the time. And he'd always be like, why are you worried about your outfit? Look at the state of them men. Look at the state of them. Like, why are you worried? Why are you worried about that? Look at them men. I'd be like, all right then.
Like honestly, he's such a mood elevator, isn't he? Like he's good for the soul, Thomas. Like if he's on your team, of course. Like
If he's
fucking hell,
on your
I'd hate
team,
to be against him.
if he's on your team, then he is an absolute asset and also just hilarious. You're just going to have a really funny time. If he's not on your team, anything's possible.
Oh, woe betide you, mate. Like, I absolutely would never want to be on the wrong side of Thomas. And I used to be like one of the most feared women in reality TV, and that's me saying it. I'm fucking terrified.
Oh, do you know what though? He goes in hard and heavy and then exhausts himself and then leaves.
And I'm spent.
Yeah, he gets tired. I can see it in him. I can see
He's like, I'm sorry, he's like a toddler. He comes booling in, causes utter chaos, and
and there
then
he
just goes,
goes with his dummy.
I want to go to bed.
He did that what he'd do. He would go to bed. He would go to bed, and I would get back to the apartment, and I'd be like, "Oh, there he is, conked out, flat as a pancake, gone." He was never, always just conked out. Like I'm usually the last to leave a party. He's the best. He's the best out.
Walk in, fuck shit up, and walk out.
He does. I saw this thing on Twitter with Thomas like stood there all proud with his wedding outfit on, and then like an exploding building behind him. I'm like, "There's my husband."
Oh, favorite. Honestly, so many of my favorite moments in the series revolved around you two guys. But like, I have to ask.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, right? You described you as a cross between like Atrium Steps and Claire Balding, right? If you had to be described as one, which would be your fave?
Hate from Steps, just because I was a massive Steps fan when I was a kid. But I need, if you're gonna make me hate from Steps, it needs to be when Steps were like when we were kids, not
Yeah,
not now. Like I want the 21-year-olds hate from
yeah. Oh,
Steps.
who doesn't want to be 21 again? I think that's a perfectly
Like, and I
acceptable.
liked his curtains. I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Got a lovely weave, hasn't he? Like I'm for it.
Oh, we are big fans of H at The Secret too here.
Oh yeah,
I obviously think things worked out pretty well for you guys, but there has been loads of stuff that's come out in the press about the other couples and other people's I suppose experiences with the show,
yeah,
and it hasn't all been like plain sailing for people.
no,
In particular, I know Matt has come out and said he's really struggled with his mental health post filming and stuff.
yeah.
Um, do you think Maths did enough in terms of like duty of care, and were you well looked after? Do you think maybe some of these people should have not put themselves in the position in the first place?
There is your
Yeah,
answer. You
yeah,
shouldn't have done it in the first place. Like, how much, like, you could sit and interview me now and say, right, I need to check him to see if he's okay about this. If I say all the right things to you, how are you to know? If it
yeah,
hasn't been recorded by anyone anywhere that there is issues with here that shouldn't be in this sort of environment, and I'm telling you all the right things, how can you possibly know? We were interviewed a lot by therapists before we went on, a lot.
quite rightly so, you know, it's a difficult process.
Absolutely. So there was so many interviews that we had to have with different therapists, and those sort of checks. But I can tell you now, you choose what you say.
Yeah,
So
of course.
anyone could have got. There's a few people there, in my opinion, that shouldn't have been. That shouldn't
Yeah.
have been, and I won't name them because that no one needs anything to be worse for them.
Mhm.
And
No,
I
there
do
is
feel
something
very
about that.
fortunate that actually I have been given such a lovely reception by everyone, and that's great. But it wouldn't have been good to be on the other side of it, and no one's mental health would be good for that. You wouldn't have previously needed to be struggling with your mental health for that to be a lot.
God, absolutely not. And like, you know, sometimes I get, because obviously I've been through obviously not that. I didn't marry a straight chap.
Yeah.
I did get
Yeah.
engaged on Geordie Shore
Oh,
to a man
lovely.
I really didn't know that
How
well.
did
So
that go?
fucking shite. So obviously I can completely relate to the process, and I feel really protective, you know, when I say in particular like really like quite clearly some like vulnerable people on these shows, and then also like some really young people if we're talking about things like Love Island, you know. I often sit there and I think,
Oh,
you know, it's all very well and good when you're having a nice time on this, but then you're going to come out to a real world with real people having very real and often sometimes so harsh and unfair opinions. Like I get quite protective and worried, um because it is tough, isn't it?
it's scary. I get so many people now messaging me saying, I'm thinking about applying for this, and I've tried to say on my like question and answer stories on Instagram a few times, like, if you want to do it, go for your life, but
Yeah,
don't think it's even as easy as it looks on the telly. It's
yeah,
harder. It's much harder than that. And then you come out and you've got to be able to take the rough with the smooth. You've got no choice. That's
yeah.
it. And
Oh
it's
yeah.
out of your hands as well. If you were an overly controlling person, you can't do this. You
Nah.
can't. You can't be made for it. You don't know what people are going to say to you. We had a very serious chat with the executive producer before we went on, and she was like, when you come out of the show, people might be just entirely lovely at you, and you might go to the pub and people will be like, you were great on the show, but someone else might say you were an absolute dick on the show and throw a pint at you, and we can't control that. And I'm like, oh, that was a very real
Oh,
talk. Very real
yeah,
talk. But that's true. That could happen. I could go to the pub now and someone dislike me from the show, not know me, but just dislike me from the show and chuck a pint at me.
yeah.
You got the cup of piss,
I did get the cup of piss.
That's all I had.
Oh, right, mate. Have you got any behind the scenes costs for work? Because I feel like I've seen all the ups and downs, but I'm like, there must be something I didn't see. Oh, right, go on, answer us that one first. I'm showing me true fangirl colours there because I was about to launch into another question straight
No,
away. But go on.
I'm trying to think. Like, what do you want? Any particular? Because there's so much.
Right. I need to understand Whitney, mate. I need to understand that because I feel like if obviously I'm going out with like a Turkish Cypriot fella,
Yeah,
Erkan, and he had certain elements like Dukai, you know, like very dark, very handsome, like quite hairy and all that. Like other than that, like Erkan's very different. But it was his little mom and dad that really gave me like Erkan's mom and dad vibes. You know, they've been together their whole lives since Olgan
yeah.
was like 18, and they're so gorgeous and lovely. And you want to have a relationship that emulates that. So I completely understood where Dukai was coming from, and to me, it was mad. I know everyone has different types and stuff, and he might not tick every single one of your boxes, but it was insane that a woman wouldn't
So,
be kind and give him like a really nice,
well,
like,
anyone, like anyone,
yeah,
just give someone a chance. I think that's what Whitney's problem is. She saw some things in Duca that didn't work for her,
a
and
red
that's
flag to
fine.
give you.
That's fine. But it's fine once you've got to know him.
Mm,
You've got to give someone a chance.
yeah,
Um, and she never gave him a chance from the moment go.
nah,
Literally, boom, you're stood at the altar and there's not a chance. Like, I saw Thomas coming a mile off. But that
yeah,
don't mean that I'm not going to give him a chance and give
yeah,
myself a chance to, find some happiness in this. And that's why it's not a one-way street. I want happiness, he wants happiness. And we tried to find that within each other. But it wasn't easy. And so that's why when Matt came and said your relationship's completely fake, I was like, you can jog on, mate. Are you
oh,
joking? Don't come for
honestly,
me.
that was like that for me was actually one of the best parts. And I'm like, hang on a second. If somebody's going to tell me about my relationship, it is not going to be the fella who didn't even give us a chance. Like, you didn't even walk down the aisle with her. So shut up.
Yeah.
I love that. I was like, show me the lie. Show me the lie. Adrian
No.
is talking facts.
Because there wasn't a lie, because what we were there for is we are working towards a marriage. And that was a brilliant marriage. There just was no sex, which is very normal.
It actually sounds like most marriages I know.
But I was very much insistent. I will not come hell or high. If I go home tonight and I think I want to rip your clothes off, I'm still not doing it, because I'm not doing it on telly. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not. And that's that. It's not the format of the show. It's not a necessity. I don't want it. I don't want to do that. Like, so whether I wanted to or not would have made no blind bit of difference. But yeah, well, I'm trying to think of some good gossip that I could give you on the Whitney thing. You know what? Whitney's not. Would you know when you're sat with Whitney, you could sit in a room with Whitney now. You'll have a nice chat. Like,
Do you think so?
she's
Because
nice.
I would love that. Like, I'd actually have not. Obviously, I've just watched the show. I'd be mad to think I knew her. It doesn't stop some people, but I think I'd be crackers. But yes, I watched her, and I just sort of thought, you scare me. You're so
Yeah.
intimidating. Like, I think I'd probably just feel a little bit, a bit intimidated by her.
On the very first dinner party, you go into the mixer, and I didn't speak to Whitney then, but as her and Duca walked in, I was like, geez, who's this woman? Wow,
Yeah.
she looks
Formidable.
frightening. And then we're on the corner of the table, of the right end of the table, and I'm one corner and she's on the next. So I'm sat next to Whitney, and I sit down. We've not said one word to each other, not one. We've never spoke. And then our dinner's served, and I've been served, I don't remember what it was, steak, chicken, I'm not sure. She's been served a vegetable option. And I was like, oh, you're a vegetarian, vegan, vegetarian? She was like, vegan. I'm like, oh, gosh, well done. Like, I don't know if I could do it.
Yeah.
And she just looks at me and she goes, it's not that difficult. And I'm like, oh, we don't know each other. Why are you coming at me already? Will you me? Like, I'm just trying to make conversation, because that's the only thing that I can see to make conversation about you right now, because everything else around you seems very unhappy. And then Duca stood up and did like a speech, which is so Duca. Let me be clear. I love the man. He is the most irritating man I've ever met in my life. And I tell him constantly, like, now I'm like, Duca, shut up, man. Like, shut up. Like, but he stood up to do a speech, and she just sat there with a cauliflower and just rolling her eyes at him. And I'm sat there like, what?
So hostile.
So mean. Like, what has happened? But then, I defended her in that first commitment ceremony. It wasn't even a case of right or wrong. She just needs a hand. Like, she was so broken, more broke than what showed on TV. She was so upset, and she couldn't get her words in edgeways. She couldn't get her words out. It was horrible. Honestly, one of the most horrible things ever for me to watch. Like, just seeing someone who's so upset, and I can't cope. So I don't even care. I don't care if she's the most wrong or the most right. I'll discuss that with her as well. But at this very moment, she's broke. Yeah. Give her a breather. Don't add fuel to this terrible fire of a very upset person. Like, I just can't do that. Like, even if it was my worst enemy, I'd be like, right, well, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Go and calm yourself down.
Yeah. Do you think that's what it is with Whitney? Do you think she is profoundly, like, just a little bit hurt and a bit broken, and probably needs to work on herself a bit? And the whole, like, very strong, sassy, formidable woman thing's a bit of a defense mechanism.
I think it is. But the one thing I'll say about Whitney, she kept it, didn't she? She didn't really break.
Although fuck me, no way.
She did have some really gooey moments with Matt, which made me want to vomit.
Honestly, mate, when they first necked on and he made that sound, I wanted to be sick. I'm not like, I don't want to dig anyone out, because I fucking love the series and every character made it brilliant. But honestly, I thought, what the fuck was that? If some fella made that noise at me, I'd run a mile.
For your first kiss. No, it was, when I was watching it, I was like, this down the sofa. When you're like, you can't cope and you need to just escape, but you've got nowhere to escape to. I'm like, oh gosh, what's happening?
Oh, it was awful, babe. It was awful. But right, across the board, like I feel like in terms of success, they didn't in successful marriages. We haven't really had many this series, have we? Have
No.
you? So obviously, I feel like you and Thomas, for me, the writing was on the wall. I could see you were like beautiful for each other, but there wasn't that romantic connection there, so to speak. And I kind of had such high hopes for Jordan and Shanita, but then that all fell apart as well.
Yeah.
So that was a real curveball for me.
Me
Um,
too.
did I hear right that the only people still together is Zoe and her partner?
Zoe and Jenna.
Yeah, Zoe and Jenna. Is those the only ones still together then?
As far as I know. Yeah,
Oh,
but in fact, yeah, it is. It's not as far as I
yeah.
know. It is. None of them are together. I'm trying to think who are still even like friends.
So
I don't
what?
think anyone.
No, do you think there's any chance
Well,
of Jordan and Shanita coming back from? No, no.
no, I don't think so. I don't think so. Like, I don't want to speak for either of them. Um, I just don't think at this moment Jordan's necessarily there.
It's just mad because he went into this experience like knowing what he was doing, It's not like I did the first ever series of X on the Beach, right?
Right.
And like everybody there was like quite allowed to be angry when the exes started walking out because I thought you didn't know what you were signing up for. This is fine.
Yeah.
But you cannot reply for Married at First Sight and then at the end go, oh, I don't want commitment.
Yeah.
Like, that's fucking surely like an oxymoron, no?
Yeah, I mean, you know what you're doing, but that was a very common like theme throughout the TV show for me. I'd constantly be looking at people like they'd be like, you know, the the producers have said this. Well, yes, that's because they're a television producer. Where do you think you are? Where do you think you are? Like, are you joking? Like, I mean, I won't say who, but there was a few people who would constantly sort of try and go against it being like, I'm not going to say anything on the camera. All right, well, we'll be here all day. So that's like,
Fucking well done.
like, honestly, and people will be like, I'm not filming today. You are not Beyonce. Grow up. You are there to do a job. Like, get on with it. Like, if you can have whatever emotion you want. And that was the thing that I thought was great. It was so much more, it was so less produced than I expected it to be. There was definitely times when we were having our one-to-one chats with the camera people where they'd say, oh, can you say this? And I'd go, no, that's
Nah,
not
yeah.
how I feel. And they go, all right. Like, they've tried their luck. You're a TV producer. Of course you're going to try your luck. Of course you are. But you choose whether to say it or not. Some people have said, there was so much wine available and you chose to pick it up. You chose that. It goes back to being responsible for yourself.
I mean, honestly, you're just speaking sense, Adrian. I could listen.
Like, it's not my fault. I was really drunk. What did they do that to you? Did they? Or did you pick the glass up? Like, sorry.
No, you're so right. I am desperate to play a little game with you before we get you
Oh,
a
we're doing a
secret.
game. Oh, all right.
Yeah, we are, babes. We're doing a quick game. It's dead easy. I'm gonna say a name of someone from this series of maths, and I want you to say the first thing that comes to your head after. Okay?
Oh my gosh. Oh,
Thomas,
okay.
Thomas was great at this, so no pressure. But your ex-husband smashed it. So come on, I want you to bring your A game. So.
Right, hang on. Okay, go on then.
Okay, you ready?
No.
All right, Matt.
Dickhead. No, I take that back. I'm sorry. Oh, no. I don't like it. Not for me. Not for me. Not for me. I feel bad.
No, don't feel bad. I think it's so right to have an opinion. I love that from you. Mine's very similar.
Just not for me.
Just not for you. You can't like everybody.
Can't. And you don't like me. You don't like me.
Exactly. It's a two-way street, isn't it, son?
Exactly. Right, carry on. Gosh.
Zoe.
Love her. My favourite.
April.
Wet.
PJ.
Oh, kind.
Oh, that's so nice. Duca.
Irritating. You'll love it.
And finally, Thomas.
Tricky.
Tricky Thomas.
Tricky.
Oh,
Thomas is
babe.
tricky. He's a
I
tricky man.
Yes. And you know what you brought out in each other was absolutely lovely. But I do wonder what's next for you, Adrian, because Thomas has made, his new relationship very, very obvious and out there. Are you on the lookout for love? Like, do you remain like wanting to get married? Has nothing changed?
I have wanted to get married since I was about 10. I'd have signed myself. I don't want to be on that shelf. I'd have signed myself off a long time ago. But at the exact same time, I am very happy single. So if you're not going to come around and add something great to my life,
Yeah.
then I'm fine by myself.
Do you know what, babe? I feel like that's so healthy, but also I feel like, you know how Pete Wicks is on something like series fucking 17 of Celebs Go Date and like he just keeps going back. I feel like potentially I would happily see you go back on maths every year, like granted, like, as long as your mental health was all right.
Do you know what? So many people have said, like, would you do it again? I'd do it again. Why not? But
I want them to go until they get it right for you.
yeah,
Like,
just keep going every season. Just keep turning up. Although, like we did the Christmas filming recently. It was like a week
yeah.
or so ago of the Christmas reunion. And the second I walked in, I was like, oh gosh, like this is a bit of a headache. I don't know if this is flogging a dead horse at this point. Like, I don't know if I can take it. Like, it's a lot.
It's hard going. I think when you're in that mindset, it's okay. And, it's a bit like Groundhog Day. You just keep going. But when you've removed yourself from that situation and you've remembered how lovely it is getting up when you want and being around your friends and family and not being in around quite a confrontational kind of situation, it you forget when you go back in, you're like, oh God, this is actually really toxic and hard.
It is a bit like, there's a lot of toxic in the air. I remember being on the show and I think it was one of the dinner parties, the pre-drinks, the dinner parties. And it was sort of, if you notice, there's like it ends up being two gangs, really. Like,
Yeah.
and then,
Oh, I know which team I was on.
and Whitney was like, oh, this toxicity is just not for me. And I'm like, oh, you guys are saying that. You guys are saying that. Are you joking? You are bringing so much. So your side of the table is bringing a hell of a lot. Like, you be careful what you say, babe. Like,
Yeah. Oh, I'm so pleased it's over for you. I'm so pleased it worked out as well as it did. I hope we see more of you on our screens, Adrian.
oh, me too. It's been fun, but maybe not married at first sight. Although, do you know what? If they said we've got you a new husband, I couldn't. I think I'd have to go. I'd have to go and see. I'd have to go and see, and then dick week one if it wasn't working.
Curiosity would get the better of me as well. Here at Vicky Pattison The Secret too, we always ask our gorgeous guests to give our lovely listeners a tiny little pearl of wisdom right before they leave. And I think it's, even though you've said loads of really lovely, insightful things, the thing that stuck with me, Adrian, right from the very start of this conversation was how you learn to accept yourself, and I think it doesn't matter whether you're straight, gay, bisexual, whether you're coming to terms with anything from sexuality to body shape to skin color. Like, we all have this personal journey and we all have this real struggle to accept ourselves,
Yeah.
I think. So I'd want to know what your secret was to learning to accept yourself.
I think it would have to be, like I said earlier, responsibility. Taking responsibility of your own truth, of your own self, your own actions. And I think to put like something massively into practice, sit on it. And if you still want to say it the next day, then say it.
Yeah. Oh, babe. Thank you so much for being such a lovely guest. I've been fucking dying to have you on.
Oh, thank you.
I've like actively campaigned. I was like, I need Adrian. So thank you for being as lovely as I thought you were going to be.
Thank you very much for being as lovely as I thought you were going to be.
Yes, full house.